Well, here we are, folks. This is the end of the road. Let's get really stuck into these games for one last time. We're going to go over some stuff that really didn't fit into any of the main segments, and do some other fun stuff, and then come to the end. The advertising campaign for SOMA was pretty awesome, and I haven't seen many types of media try to set the tone with this many different formats for a game, and the clips that were released in relation to the transmission episodes had some really creepy shit in it. What's pretty neat about when SOMA was first being marketed was that there was a bunch of information that pointed to it taking place in space up until the first main teaser was released, of course.
We wanted people to think it was a space game for a bit, and one of our trailers even started off with things like floating around, and it looked like a space station, and it pulled back a bit more, and like some bubbles came, and then some fish, and then before you know it, you're underwater.
It's sort of like a little subversion, because science fiction in space makes sense, but underwater? Oh, there's another angle, you know what I mean? When I was playing Amnesia for the first time, I was really just sort of confused about how you could grab this guy's weenus, but this is an accident. You can grab what's behind him, and it confuses people, even Christopher Odd, who I guess just wanted to grab some weenus.
Why is it only letting me grab certain part? Something's weird here.
Thomas Grip is more than aware that Amnesia had a major influence on other horror games. He has mentioned enjoying Outlast and even Slender to an extent, but I don't share his enthusiasm. I may take the time to share my thoughts on Outlast someday, but the way I usually assess that game is that it's the very best of the worst horror games. It's the best that the copycats had to offer. It took one or two major elements popularized by Amnesia and drew up the rest with the same design method as Five Nights at Freddy's, looking to rely on jump scares, and there's a huge audience for that, so I don't blame them, but I was rather disappointed myself. I'm a nitpicky motherfucker though, so it's cool. Things change upon second visits. I don't know if you knew this, but in Amnesia, in the transept, there's actually a bunch of empty cages, but depending on your sanity levels and just where you are in relation to the actual level itself, you can sometimes actually have a guy spawn in one of the cages. Also in the choir lead-up, there's a bunch of men on the way back, if you can trigger it. Also, the Patchwork Man from SOMA, but we'll get a little bit into that in a sec. There are currently no plans for VR in Amnesia or SOMA, but Frictional have admitted that they see the potential for it. He also had some thoughts on why SOMA may not have been received quite as he intended.
We had a few that sort of disliked it. I think that many people only read from the creators of Amnesia Dark Descent. Oh, and then they have a sort of a false memory of what Amnesia the Dark Descent is, which is, oh, you're just running around from scary monsters, it's a sort of nostalgia kicking in. Oh fuck, this is gonna be great. And then SOMA starts out not being like that at all. Like you're not just fighting your previous game, you're fighting an image, you're fighting a game that never existed, which is a sort of an interesting thing to keep in mind. People say, yeah, but there's tons of enemy encounters in Amnesia. No, there's not. There's pretty much as much as there are in SOMA. They're a bit more spread out in SOMA, but it's not that much difference between the two. But people don't recall it that way, and they also, I think, are very heavily influenced by Outlast and that sort of thing. Yeah? It's like when you're used to one type of game, and then you just you play the iterations on that game, and suddenly it's like playing Fallout 4 and then getting a game that's inspired by Fallout 1. You're gonna be disappointed, and if you're expecting if you're expecting something like that.
But all the shit that Thomas and his team went through in terms of development to have SOMA be so harshly criticized, it makes sense to me that his reply to the question of summing up game design in one word would be frustration. The process itself is filled with bugs and disappointment when things go wrong, and fixing them makes it worse. A process of 5 years to only have people call your work a failure is pretty amazing. I've said a lot of horrid shit about people's projects, and I really do stand by basically all of my statements. I consider them to be fair, but saying shit like it's not even a horror game, it's just sad, to say the least. So in honor of Frictional's work, let's check out the remaining criticisms from these reviewers and tear them a brand new poop hole, shall we?
Boiled down to its bare essence, there isn't anything particularly astounding or innovative about Amnesia the Dark Descent. It's not a bad game by any means, but everything within it has been done before.
Despite being one of the finest examples of YouTuber bait, Amnesia the Dark Descent does still offer up some genuinely frightening moments and is truly one of the best first-person horror games ever made.
Having to manage your sanity also isn't very immersive in my opinion. I would rather if they made the dark truly more scary, rather than making it just a stat that you have to manage. I would think it would be more scary if you actually had to sneak around in the dark and deal with enemies that might walk up on you.
Okay, shut the fuck up, all of you. Cleo said the game doesn't bring anything new to the table, which is fucking hilarious. I'll let that statement eat itself. GGManLive said the game was YouTube bait, despite being released well before the advent of Let's Plays on YouTube, and it's a direct successor to another game that was created without YouTube even being relevant, but hey, it sounded good for a moment there, didn't it, you Aussie fuck? Finally, the game would have been scarier if you were forced to sneak around in the dark and deal with enemies every once in a while. It sounds like you're describing the actual game. What else have we got?
I am in a basement with the lights turned off.
These things you can look at, and they're not quite as scary, but they're just as dangerous. But they're also pretty dumb and very easy to sneak around. Most of the time, you just gotta step around one of these blind bad guys, throw something to distract him, and go around him. It doesn't feel as intense or breathtaking as Amnesia, but it's still satisfying. But on the same hand, it's definitely not as involved and hardcore and challenging as something like Alien Isolation.
Dude, calm your ass down, read your script, and try to smooth it out a bit. I think I understood what you were saying, but holy fuck, calm down. Also, I thought Alien Isolation was a tad wank myself. Anyway...
They're powerful questions, though some land with more oomph than others. Leaving a robot Carl to suffer electrical torture for all eternity felt like a cheap way to build empathy, but it was definitely affecting.
Cheap but effective? The whole area is set up to give you the option to save him from that. People miss it because they're focused on the communication center or just what they want. If you looked in the other room, you could have shut it all down. Sure, it would have given you a creature to deal with, but you wouldn't have known that. I don't know, I guess I wouldn't call it cheap myself, that's all. Wait, hang on, what's this? If Frictional were 100% honest.
Frictional Games is only popular because we cater to Let's Players. You begin the game as a character going into a routine brain scan, but somehow you wake up 100 years later in a robot body as an...
What's happening? Oh god, not that way! Oh!
Do you see what I mean?
No, I don't see what you mean. I'm incredibly confused. What are you saying?
Our games have become Let's Play fodder, rather than, you know, being games. Ever since the Chinese room helped us make a machine for pigs, we haven't so much added gameplay as we've added cheap jump scares. If you take a look at the games that came out after Dark Descent, you'll notice that the monsters are either rarely there, or don't mesh with the story at all. And the gameplay? Press forward, pick up that random physics object, avoid that random monster, and you'll eventually get to the end.
Well, you're a smug little shit, aren't you? We got another person who didn't actually play the game, I guess.
PewDiePie is Swedish. We're in Sweden. One of the first games he played was Amnesia. No connection there.
What are you, what? Christ. Why is this channel viewed? I mean, it's parody, I guess, but... Oh, hey, by the way, people, remember ACG, the guy who said there's no depth to the story and all that crap? Well, there was an exchange on his video in his comment section that I saw during my downloading of his video, specifically for this project. Now, when you're dealing with criticism, try and be a little classy and forthcoming with your criticizers, because then you're not a gigantic crybaby faggot who can't take negative words on your own work. Basically, don't be this guy. So, here we go. Some guy comments on his channel and says, I heard about your channel reviews. I searched for quality game, and this is one of them to judge if I will follow you. You failed. You're goddamn right he failed. The reason I didn't pile more shit on ACG is because his review is an embarrassment. He missed every mark. Fuck, I missed about every single thing the game has to offer. So, he responds, you are not wanted here. I mean, yeah, okay. So the guy comes back with, second reason right here, which, yeah. If the content creator says he doesn't want you viewing his content, and you think his content is a failure, I guess that's solid grounds to abandon all hope on that shit. But then ACG comes back with this. Technically the second can't come after the first. You were judged by your comment, and you failed. The fuck is that as a response? Technically the second can't come after the first. I think you'll find that technically is the main way second comes after first. But also, this childish as fuck comment. Good luck, ACG. All the best in the future, you absolute autist. Is that it? We good? Can I never watch YouTube reviews ever again? Oh, there's a few more opinions from that guy. The Joseph. Alright, Joseph, let's make a deal. I'm gonna rip you a brand new asshole in this last part, sir. I'm gonna do it for the good of YouTube itself. You ready? Fucking hope not.
For the other times, your screen starts to fizzle in warning when you're in danger. This warning that something was nearby became a trigger for me to be annoyed rather than frightened. It was an announcement that one part of the game was over, and that it was now monster time.
Right, now let's surgically show you that you're fucking wrong. This statement is erroneous and you're being dishonest. You claim that the screen tearing that is brought on by local electromagnetic outputs is a telltale sign of enemy engagement, and you saw it as annoying because it meant that it enters you into combat mode, or monster mode, splitting the game into two key parts. Except that screen interference happens throughout the game in many occasions, and I thank the fuck out of you for using it to describe a moment in which it proves my point perfectly, not yours. There is evidence in the local files of SOMA that there was going to be an additional enemy called the Patchwork Man. I briefly mentioned him before. He was dropped from the game during production but left in a particular part of the game, namely on the floor in the second level of Omicron. Once you activate the power in Omicron, he's gone. This is just a neat interaction, a reference. He is no threat. That's him right there in this dumb fuck's video. He's harmless, he doesn't engage you in the game. The two enemy encounters in this station are not anywhere near this area. Joseph Anderson knows this, he played the segment of this game. Regardless of that, he still makes the claim that the screen tearing is an enemy detector. Fuck you. Turn it off in the options menu if it bothers you that much. Next.
SOMA is split quite artificially like that. You rotate between a clumped together experience of puzzles, exploration, and story, and then over to monster hide and seek.
Right, once again I have to dismantle your claim. Firstly, SOMA does indeed blend the gameplay, exploration, puzzle solving, and creature interactions all at the same time. It's present throughout the game. It's literally what makes the monsters even more scary, that you have to perform basic actions knowing that they're near you. You want an example, Joseph? How about the fact that you explore Omicron to discover this server room to find a puzzle piece to complete the overall objective while trying to avoid the robot girl? I guess that doesn't count. I swear to fucking God, these people who spend their day playing video games blinded with their fucking feet always end up putting footage in the background of their malformed critique videos that directly fly in the face of everything they're fucking saying. It's goddamn hilarious, to be fair. You make my job a hell of a lot easier. The part I find really dishonest is that you call it hide-and-seek style gameplay in the one area of the game that staring at the enemy doesn't change anything. You don't hide from her. In fact, it is paramount to your success to look at her and note the stages of her aggression. You have a clear agenda here, Joseph, one that flies in the face of honest assessment and screams pseudo-intellectual diatribe. You're not making any kind of great claim that reveals the truth about a piece of media if you're actively lying. Next.
Exploring is engaging as long as you like that sort of thing in games. More walking and looking parts with things to find that you can read, listen to, or inspect for yourself. There's not an immense amount of environmental storytelling here, although occasionally the game does do a good job with it, especially in some of the later sites where the corpse is left around.
Jesus fucking Christ, mate. The game knocks it out of the park for environmental storytelling. Not that you have any idea, Joseph, when your idea of good environmental storytelling is corpses on the floor. I'm guessing you're not a fan of reading the environment in SOMA aside from oogling the dead bodies? I'm sure you're too good for that sort of dribble. You know, I would bet a small fucking child's innocent soul that you don't actually know why their heads are that way. You don't know any of the reasons why anything fucking happened in the story, I would imagine. I mean, Christ, you actually didn't realize that destroying the WoW was an option. Next.
A few things happen here that are important. First, just so you can understand the context of what I showed earlier, this is where you meet your first robot enemy, the shuffling thing with the spotlight, which is a reasonably clever way of letting the player know that you want to stay out of sight. Or out of the light in this case. They're not interesting. This was the robot that I ran right up to get a better look at, and they're not interesting. Really, I feel sorry for this thing. They're not interesting. It seems so pathetic and incapable of doing anything, really. They're not interesting. It's like the Eeyore of crazy killer robot monsters. You lock it away when you reach the next area, and it just wanders around hopeless for a while, I guess. They're not interesting.
Reasonably clever robot design. Oh god, was that difficult? Especially when you're the one who said that the enemies are not interesting. Was it difficult to pay Frictional a compliment in terms of design? Fuck me, mate. Sad. I'll admit here that I stopped watching his critique. It made me too viscerally angry. As much as it's been fun proving him to be a biased little shit, it does take a toll to watch about 20 reviews in a row to only find 3 that were remotely honest and thorough in their research. YouTube critical analysis has an issue, and that is that everyone is too fucking lazy to actually put the time into their videos. We had an uprising of critics back when YouTube was still finding its footing, and they brought in the sort of first impressions and thought videos. Then everything got shrunk down, and there are a few left of the old guard who still maintain this level of objectiveness even when they're just making a video of their thoughts. So naturally, more and more content creators started to streamline the whole thing, making 5-minute reviews that were filled with buzzwords and statements that you could jump onto the whole, "Whoa man, it's just my opinion, bro." Which, to be fair, you may want to use language more fucking carefully if you honestly think that this is an opinion.
SOMA isn't really a horror game. It's not scary and—
But this is how IGN became so popular, very quickly digestible dribble that people ate up because, hey, I want to see whether or not this new game is sort of worth playing, I guess. But in the last few years or so, there's been a rise of video reviewers who believe that they can simply speak for about 30 minutes or more, slap some very low-edited gameplay on the back of their videos and be regarded as some of the best critical thinkers on this site. It makes me fucking gag when I think about this as the community I want to be a part of. It's so fucking rare that the audience of a content creator is actually criticized. Why is it that Joseph calls his videos critiques instead of reviews? Well, firstly, it's to ride the Matthew Matosis style of critique that he's obviously gotten inspiration from. However, Matthew Matosis actually has some talent, but I think there's a little more of nefarious reason to it. His videos won't even show up in the first 3 when searching for a SOMA review, but a critique? Well, that brings him to number 1, and makes him seem a hell of a lot smarter since you're in for some intellectual content if you're watching a critique. I have played a hell of a lot of Dark Souls. I've seen a hell of a lot of Dark Souls analysis videos, including the wretched sack of shit that Joseph's was. It was to make sure I was being fair to his channel. I, looked around and, well... And I can honestly say that none of them have been as thorough as I would like, aside from people who, pick one topic. But the people who do an overview and have half-hour videos fucking make me sick. What a brilliant way to miss the majority of the content the game has to offer. My point here is that I'll never make a Dark Souls review, because I'm smart enough to recognize that I would do the game a disservice with a lackluster video even if I made it 10 hours long. Since I would not know everything, I would need to know everything about the game to be accurate. Not even if I spent months on it. There's always more to cover. Maybe if I had a year, I don't know. If only Joseph had that kind of foresight with any of his fucking reviews. Look at these fucking comments from his SOMA video. A very thoughtful video. I can tell a lot of work went into this, and though I have never played SOMA, I feel like I finished this video having gained something for it. Well, yeah, people who haven't played the game aren't going to know any better and simply have to take Joseph's word for it. Isn't that fucking wonderful? Subbed. Your reviews are extremely in-depth, and this is what I want in a review. Watched your The Witness review, and I thought it was excellent as well. Keep up the good work. Extremely in-depth. 40-minute video on an 8-hour game that's been in production for 5 years. That's in-depth. Jesus. I guess you'll be subscribing to me soon enough then, right? Because this series has been like 8 hours. Is that in-depth enough for you? I am glad I watched your video instead if playing the game. Great explanation. Keep up the good work. No, don't be glad about that, you stupid fuck. Play the damn game and think for yourself. Don't let JoJo get away with this nonsense. I just found your channel, and I have to honestly say you're the best, most dedicated game reviewer on here. Top fucking comment. Top goddamn comment on this absolute abortion of a video. Best, most dedicated— fuck off, Ken Chung. Dying with no penalty? Sounds like most games. I love SOMA. It was more suspenseful and creepy, story-based than scary. It's a masterpiece. A masterpiece is generally something with few to no substantial flaws. SOMA is good, but it can't be classified as a masterpiece. Ugh, I know. I like his videos, but every time he mentions dying with no penalty as if it's a flaw, I roll my eyes. Fuck you. Well, it's good to know what happens to criticism on these channels, right guys? No offense, but the points you made about how the game tried way too hard to be scary, it was monster time, etc., are utter bullshit. This game is not your average horror fest. Its story was perfectly blended with monsters whose source you did not know. Why are they like this? Where did they come from? It's the fear of the unknown that makes your skin crawl, supported by a perfect story. Oh my god, there's some sanity left in the world. Thank you, Vatian. Thank you, man. This video is fucking dreadful. I don't usually leave comments ever, honestly. This is the first review I've seen that I couldn't quite get through due to the blatant lack of understanding of the content involved. You spitefully assess the mechanics as if they are cheap attempts to spook you, when they are carefully crafted environmental innovations to celebrate. Frictional always wanted to focus on the experience, not the win-loss goal. Your video is filled with relentless diatribe that stinks of misunderstanding and disregard for reality. I'm currently writing a video on SOMA vs Amnesia, and an important part is looking into the current discussion of these games on YouTube. I'll respond to many of the points you've made in your video, and the purpose will be to highlight the incompetence of many reviewers on the site today. People have come to believe that anyone who records gameplay and speaks for 30 minutes or more is automatically an incredible source of insight. Unfortunately for you, I've played this game, and despite thinking it isn't exactly amazing or anything, I'm aware of the many times you've lied in this video to suit your narrative. I do apologize for being so corrosive in your comment section, but my god man, hold yourself to a fucking standard. Whew, what a comment. Oh, it was from me. That makes sense. Oh, and someone responded. What did they say? Molly YouTube, who says your opinion is more correct than his? Piss off, you cunt. Facts aren't opinions. Go back to school. Right, so another thing I noticed is that Joseph responded to the comments above and below mine that were positive, i.e. dick-sucking and avoids the critical ones. Classy fucker. But he's not alone. All the cunts I've covered in this series have a selection of fucking issues. They make these shit-spewing videos filled with set-up footage and blatant mistruths to sell their retarded perspective while ignoring the obvious influences and effects the content has on others because they make the 30-minute video. Meaning they have interesting perspectives. You don't. They are intellectual. You aren't. I made a few videos that are harsh of people in the critical sphere of YouTube, calling them on their bullshit, but I get slammed in my comments regularly. My video on I Hate Everything has just been one comment at least per like every 3 days about how my video is wrong in every way, shape, and form. And you know, a lot of it is, but like I Hate Everything was like 99% wrong. I mean, honestly, like if I could do the video over, I'd still have loads of content to work with. My point is that unlike the people I'm criticizing, I don't really have an audience. So what's my response to criticism? Come and chat with me so we can figure this out. I prefer the critical comments because it helps me improve my work. There are things in terms of development in my previous dissection that I actually cringe at now. I can barely take some of the errors in that thing, but I'm sure I'll look back on this video one day and think the same. This level of self-awareness and openness to critique is lost on these pseudo-intellectual fucks, just riding the obsession people have started to develop for in these in-depth reviews. Of which I'm actually a huge fan of, by the way, but I urge people to have a taste and call a spade instead of eating what people say and fundamentally saying shit like, "You're the greatest YouTuber in history." How would I recommend fixing this? How about making a fair title for your video? Call it My Retarded Views on SOMA, and alter your language so you stop making edgy declarative statements. How about saying, I think SOMA doesn't qualify as a horror game, then explain how you would qualify it versus how society does. How about you be fucking fair? Fucking interesting. The major problem is how many fucking bias these people have. Total Biscuit nailed it in an early December video. Every reviewer has bias. If you can identify it and wear it on your shoulder as you explore the information, you will be doing a service to the critical analysis on YouTube. But no, people would prefer to spout an opinion, shove it down your throat until you agree or just ignore you. Only respond to the dick-sucking comments, and then ignore any kind of critique and rinse and fucking repeat. This just isn't something people want to talk about in fear that they'll step on someone's opinion or hurt someone's feelings. Don't tell me I can't say what I'm saying. Tell me why what I'm saying is wrong. I did that for you guys. I did it to Joseph more than anyone, and I want to take a second here since I'm gonna receive so much hate for my series. Joseph, I doubt you'll ever see this video, but by chance that you will, I'm sorry for what I've said, but you massively pissed me off. You are the unlucky soul amongst many reviewers who have been incompetent or dishonest to aid your own narratives about video games that decided to pick SOMA to critique, the game that someone with far more passion and effort is looking into. It took me a full month to collect my data. A fucking month to collect my data. Then I wrote my script, and then I rewrote it, and then I took another month of compiling the data, and rewrote again, and then I began editing, while rewriting as I progressed. Your video to me represents everything that's wrong with YouTube armchair video game critics. You took a feeling you had and created a bunch of non-facts to back it up as some incredible truth. It really fucking pissed me off, and this is why I've torn you a new anus in this video. But it doesn't just apply to you. There were plenty of people who massively missed a point while claiming it to be anything other than an opinion. People lost what it fucking means to be using the English language. So it doesn't surprise me that you'll bark all you want, but when it comes to the point where you have to face the music for your claims, you'll call the fucking opinion police. Why do you guys think I use footage from 2 Let's Players? Their opinions and reactions are all live and genuine. They can't fucking lie to suit my narrative. They don't even know I exist. They're a fair and primary study of the game itself. My style, when it comes to these review things, is more to do with proving to you that my points are accurate because this is the evidence I built them from. Not what Joseph does, which is present an opinion and cherry-pick data to match it. Look at what critique means, Joseph. You have no fucking right to use that word. My final summation here is that nobody's calling these people on their shit, and when they do, they're ignored. Similarly to probably what is going to happen to this video. This sucks, and I hope it changes. I hope it changes along with the quality of the videos being made in future. I genuinely am sorry if I upset anybody with the content in my video, and if you have a grievance, please comment, and you'll find I respond to most comments and tend to be a pretty nice guy.
At the time of writing this, it's been about 12 hours since I've completed SOMA, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. I had to play a different game entirely before I went to bed, so I wouldn't have nightmares. SOMA is one of the scariest games I've ever played. It's also one of the best science fiction storylines I've seen in a video game. I love it.
It turns out some people actually really do just love the game. So how about we calm the fuck down and enjoy something a little different? Let's check out the Steam and Metacritic reviews for SOMA and Amnesia, shall we? First up, Amnesia. Cheap jump scares. I'm a horror fan and I'll never understand why a lot of people think that this game is great. Go into the darkness, get scared because something loud sounds. Rinse, repeat, uninstall. Well, yeah, that sounds like it's just not your cup of tea. I'm a horror fan, I'll never understand why a lot of people think this game is great. I would love to know what games you like, sir. Anyway, moving on. I really don't get the hype of this game. For me it was average. Something to do when you are bored. I did not find it scary. I mean, come on, if I play it in the dead of the night, all alone, it should at least make me afraid of going to the bathroom or something. Although the story itself is really sick and it made me hate myself, aka Daniel, quite a bit. I would recommend buying it only on sale. The playthrough takes only about 10 hours, so in my opinion it's not worth the full price. Well, I mean, that's a fair perspective, I guess. But, I mean, no, you're wrong. An atmospheric horror adventure that has some really cool tricks using sound and graphical effects to invoke the sense of insanity. To get something out of this game, you have to completely immerse yourself. Dark room, headphones, no distractions, and all that. However, I don't experience games. I beat them. What? And especially for this game, once I figured out how it works, the veil came crashing down and it lost its charm. It's all effects and very little gameplay to back it up. I won't be completing this. 1.8 hours on record. Wow, you didn't get very far. But I don't experience games, I beat them. Okay, man. It has got bugged too much. If you want a little scare, it's okay, but it has no end to my knowledge and no end? Because it has no end? What? Too many puzzles. Decent game to pally. What do you... No. The atmosphere is certainly top-notch, and I'm not denying that a lot of effort was put into that aspect of the game, but all else is poorly done. It boils down to simply walking around doing tedious puzzles with the occasional monster run-in, where you resort to the same routine every single time, running away, briefly waiting for it to fuck off, and then continuing pulling levers. It's almost burdened by the tedious insanity mechanic, where once the game decides you are now scared, you have to stare at a lamp for 10 seconds or the protagonist will start having asthma attacks. That's actually really fair. Honestly, that's like the most legit criticism you can have of Amnesia, because it's all about how the people enjoy it individually, almost. Because his perspective is accurate, but you know who else's perspective is accurate? The person who says that it was terrifying because of those very elements. Like, that just comes down to personal preference, honestly. Okay, basically, when I was about to start playing this game, I was all hyped. Like, oh, this is gonna be one scary fucking game. But then after a couple of hours playing, it lacks story. It's just you running around doing some errands. The scenario is pretty cool, really dark. But after a while, that's what it is, just a dark scenario. These monsters are pretty stupid. I know you're supposed to immerse, but it's hard to do it when you enter a room. A monster attacks you, and all of a sudden you're on a room after you saw the monster. Sometimes the monster just vanishes. How can I be scared? It's just so stupid. Every time it happened I was like, WTF. How can I really immerse myself into the game when I don't need to hide from monsters? And the scenario is pretty much the same through the game. It's not scary, it's pretty boring. The good thing about this game, it would be the puzzles. Some of them can be challenging if you don't pay attention to details. I guess that's what hyped up. I guess that's what hyped up games do to you. A bunch of people telling you that the game is awesome. When you play it, it's not that great. I was expecting such an awesome horror game, but I guess that's what I did wrong. Maybe if the game wasn't so hyped, but the game would have been better. You know, that's a fair point. You don't want to play games that are hyped, because it does ruin the experience a little bit. But I don't know how to respond to the rest of that. Let's check out a more extensive review. Nah. Okay. That was a misfire. Next one, please. What the hell is this Monster Hunter shit? This game is fat, sack it up. The makers are shitty. What? Next up. All I ever heard my ex talk about was this game and Homestuck. There is a reason she is my ex. Holy fuck. Well, I like the way this guy reviews things. Who have we got next? Very, very atmospheric. Maybe too atmospheric. So much that it eats away from the actual gameplay / fear experience. Too atmospheric, huh? I didn't know that was a thing. That's interesting. Too much jump scares, I died. Alright. They should remove the jump scares. You know, those non-existent ones. Boring. An NPC chasing you with distorted violin sounds isn't scary. Dark rooms aren't scary. Truly the downfall of the horror genre. Like some other people said, at some point you have to try and be scared from the game. Alright, Joseph, looks like you got into Steam too, huh? I think we should check out SOMA, right? Because the reviews for SOMA are going to be so much better. People have a better handle on SOMA, right guys? Guys? Amazing, brilliant game. I loved every second piece of it. What? What about the first piece? The story, graphic, gameplay, horror, atmosphere must buy for anyone who's willing to disconnect from reality and enjoy some amazing story. Wow, that was good. Alright, I'm liking this. We got a good old... We got a happy dynamic going here. I like this. Maybe we should not look at the negative reviews. How about that, guys? Should we not look at the... No. Okay, let's have a look. Annoying and not scary. Yeah, alright. Expectations 10 out of 10. Trailer 10 out of 30. Jump scares 5 out of 10. Storyline 3 out of... What? Most part of the game you walk around trying to find items and investigate stuff. Duh, that's the game, bro. Yeah, I know that, but after playing this game for so fucking long, nothing is happening. I played this game 2.5 hours and noticed that nothing is happening, and all I did was putting random junk in my pockets. What game were you playing? In my opinion, especially if they are creators of Amnesia, this could have been a lot spectacular. Okay, fair enough. You carry on filling your pockets on your 10 out of 30 trailer game. I don't know about that. This game is pretty. Pretty shit. No. Thought required. Just follow the dots. Games for the LCD. I'm sick of it. What does that mean? Whatever happened to games for those with a brain? Don't waste your money like I did. Okay. What else we got? The game's moral choices are edgy because they violate human conscience. Decided I didn't want to subject myself to that anymore. The atmospherics of the game work, and it's got some nice cerebral musings, but I wasn't enjoying pulling the plug on people. Honestly? See, this is the thing, right, that I was trying to get at a little bit throughout this whole thing. This is a good review. From Frictional's perspective, the game did what they wanted there. It made this guy feel uneasy and awkward and didn't want to think about this shit, yet he calls it a bad game for that. It's the misunderstanding shit. And you know, fucking Joseph Anderson isn't going to be helping this, because he's just going to convince people that it's actually a bad game as well. Walking simulator with rich fucking story. Feels bad, man. I hope the developers will stop making games. Okay. Well, that's rough. Next up, 1. Minor performance issues. 2. Not very optimized. Isn't that the same thing? Twice? This game is completely overhyped. I bought it because there were suddenly tons of gameplay videos on YouTube where it looks like fun on the first glance. However, after the first 2 to 3 hours, it gets quite repetitive. The plot twist is revealed too early. Oh god. What plot twist? He's talking about the fact that you're a robot, isn't he? And then the rest of the game is just digging up some minor details about the story and running from A to B. It's nowhere as scary as the Amnesia games. The levels are extremely linear. Riddles consist mainly of pushing buttons to open a door. Also, the game is currently unplayable for me as it keeps crashing at one particular spot. I check forums and other people have the same problem. I hope they fix it, but I probably won't continue playing anyway. Alright. Took you 8.2 hours to get about 4 hours into the game then? Or 2 hours? I don't know. Alright, good stuff. I appreciate the review. It's good to know that people are experiencing these things. Let's check out the next one. Yep. Alright. That's something. So, good stuff, people. I'm glad we got through that. That's the public opinion. I mean, there's a lot more of those, and I've obviously just picked random ones, but I don't know, that it seems to be that a lot of people, we already know a lot of people appreciate Amnesia, right? A lot of people like Amnesia. It's definitely an understood great game, if you know what I mean. However, Soma, not so much. Soma's actually looked at as more of a failure by the general public. Like, this is something that I know from things aside from what I've shown you today. Like, there's a general perspective about Soma being this game that failed, this game that Frictional didn't realize what they were doing. So, there's something else I want to look at, right? This is the Reddit post that has Joseph Anderson's critique of Soma. Now, I was really fucking surprised to see this because I'm a big fan of Reddit, so seeing that it got upvoted to 1622, like, that's something. That's significant. I don't know if people upvote because it's Joseph Anderson, or they upvoted because, you know, it's a good video, quote-unquote, because it's fucking not, but if we check out some of these top comments, alright? So the first one is promoting something else in relation to the context. Then we've got, if I remember correctly, Catherine did not lie to Simon about the transfers, it was just Simon being ignorant. I would not call him stupid though, he's an everyday Joe from the present. How would he comprehend the precise meaning of copying a consciousness? For a present human, the only me is I. Having a copy of oneself is unthinkable. So, I'll be honest with you guys, about a week or two later, after I decided to never look at another thing from Joseph Anderson's video, I watched it with a friend right the way through. We did a 2.5 hour stream where we just deconstructed it. Now, let me know in the comments if you guys really want to see that or whatever. I can upload it privately and just link it in the description or whatever, or in the comments. It doesn't matter. The point being is that we actually went through his video and he does make a lot more stupid points. There's a hell of a lot more. I could have made a video series just talking about what he said about Soma. He claims that Catherine lies to Simon throughout the whole game. That's not true. Catherine does not lie to Simon, ever. She says that Simon and Catherine will be on the Ark. They will be on the Ark. Copies of them are going to be on the Ark. So essentially, she tells the truth, but not the whole truth. It's a very, you know, easy loophole. And as I explained in the older parts, she does it to protect Simon's fucking mental state. He is unstable. He doesn't deal well with these actual concepts. We know this. It's established pretty well. So that's what this comment's talking about. The second part of it is there's an option to kill the WoW. It's not mandatory. It felt like the YouTuber thought that it is. Yeah. Joseph Anderson missed the part where you can actually not kill the WoW. Once again, just another YouTuber who just didn't fucking understand the difference because they didn't look into it at all. It's a really good trap in terms of critical analysis because it's like yeah, it's something you would easily find out if you actually looked into this, but you didn't. So look what happened. And it's been some time since I played the game. I'm pretty sure that Catherine talked about the need for the Ark to be put into orbit because it has a lot more chance to survive in space than at the base, because the base will malfunction sooner or later based on the degradation that happened so far. It seems to be a plausible explanation. The Ark didn't have the power to run forever at the station, because ultimately the power would be shutting off after a certain amount of time, and it was off before we turned it back on, while in space it could last a hell of a lot longer because it can be solar powered. So that answers that. I imagine that Joseph was probably like, why would they not just keep it in the fucking station? But like I said, I don't actually remember it specifically because I didn't add this to my current script, because fuck that, I'm not going to go through every last thing he did wrong. Anyway, Soma was great. The audio and video design was top-notch, and it had an intricate story with depth. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but if atmosphere and nuanced storytelling is your thing versus active gameplay, it's worth a pickup. That's good. That's good. I like that comment. It's good that that's one of the top ones for Reddit, because this is the thing. His video is fucking the opposite of that. So, next up we got, as inherently flawed as Soma might be, I love that it exists. It's just so unique, having lots of really cool places, ideas, and set pieces that I've never seen in a game before, or at least not in such a way. Yeah, I mean, I love the game that exists. For different reasons, though, I guess. And then we come to this comment. This is the next top one. I'm watching this right now, and I just want to say, watch Joe's videos and subscribe. If you like well-thought-out, long-form reviews and critiques, it's well worth your time to at least listen to his commentaries. Yeah, no. Honestly, like, I watched, I think it was Joseph Anderson's review of Soma, then all 5, I want to say, of his videos on Dark Souls, which had so much crazy shit in it. He said, like, combat doesn't work in Dark Souls when it's outside of one person. And his breakdown of Ornstein and Smo is a travesty. Like, he's so fucking out of whack on his perspective. But I then checked out his Fury review with a friend, and it was about, like, the majority. I could break down Joseph Anderson pretty easily. Like, he's got a very, very obvious style, And it includes basically explaining the game for as much as he can. And obviously with SOMA it was a huge mistake because he misunderstood the majority of SOMA, so it sounded all wrong. But with Fury, a game that's essentially focused on one style, which is just boss fights, but, you know, mechanically very tight, he explains the shit out of that game. He explains how, like, the boss moves change. He explains phases. And I was just sitting there like, is this... like, when do we get to the point with this actual substance here? You know, what I'm trying to say is, right, that if I was to be genuinely honest, Joe's video on SOMA is a really good reason to never subscribe to him, right? His other videos, like The Witness, I need to see that one because apparently that's a lot of the reason why people subscribe to him. It may be very good, for all I know. Because I'm not going to say that all this guy's videos suck, because I don't actually know that. But his SOMA one was dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. And it's really sad that so many people are just ignoring that. Like, it just doesn't matter. People will go as far as saying, I disagree. But it's like anybody with any passion for SOMA cannot take Joe's video seriously, and I don't blame them. Alright, I don't want to harp on this for longer than I already have. This is going to be a really stretched out finale video. But the point is to really just... I want you guys to understand my perspective. To get inside my head, to understand that I'm not just being a complete fucking dick. Okay? Fuck Joseph Anderson is essentially my conclusion with all of this shit. And I'm disappointed in people's backbones when it comes to SOMA. Like, Frictional have been screwed over with how much people just didn't pay attention to the game, and, you know, whatever. It happens. And I guess my video wouldn't exist if not for that, so if anybody's actually enjoyed this series, then they have Joseph to thank, in a way, because he did provide a lot of the passion that I had for making this along the way. Regardless, you know, like I said, Frictional are even aware of Steam reviews. Check this out.
So I love horror. SOMA is distressing. There is a scene where I have to hurt a friendly robot to progress, and I don't know why. It made me cry. And, you know, if we get people returning the game because of stuff like this, it feels like, yeah, we probably achieved our goals.
So yeah, all of that was pretty cancer. Moving on, I think it's safe to say that SOMA has a different focus from Amnesia entirely.
For the most part, it's pretty great. It's gonna be great. But you gotta get your expectations in check before diving in. This is not Amnesia 2, and you can tell after just the first hour. It begins with a lot of friendly voices and absurdist humor, starting as a kind of black comedy about weird science, kind of like Portal, before taking a literal dive down into the crippling black isolation that is more familiar with Frictional's previous lineup.
And that it seems to have lost a lot of critical praise because of that. I happen to love both games for what they did and their execution of it, but ultimately the title of this video implies I should aim to pick a winner. They are both attempting their own goals and both nail their respective goals, but in the current gaming climate, they're both trying to be the kings of horror, right? And I think Amnesia really is that. It's the scariest gaming experience in terms of design in history, and may very well stay that way until VR is nailed. SOMA is a terrifying look into ourselves and our race, with much of the dressing not quite making it to the mark, because it's all in aid of that first intention. This is why I think Amnesia: The Dark Descent is the superior game, but by no means can be played instead of SOMA. Play both of these games, experience them. We don't have enough of these that are well made on the market, so appreciate them while you can. The only caveat here, I suppose, is that SOMA is more important to humanity as content. I am a firm believer that experiencing fear is important to ourselves, that we should experience everything while we're here, but SOMA asks questions that go beyond even that, questions about the meaning of life itself, and honestly, that's about as valuable as you can be as long as you nail the delivery, which is what they fucking do. Therefore, it's my conclusion that Amnesia is the superior horror game, Amnesia is the superior video game. However, SOMA is more valuable to the human race as content, and if you could only play one of these games, I would have to honestly recommend SOMA. But for fuck's sake, people, don't just listen to what I have to say. Go and find out for yourselves. Prove me right, or prove me wrong. Come back with a fiery passion that can have me rethinking my perspective. Well, I think it would be pertinent to have my own unbridled opinion, or my uncensored thoughts about these two games in totality as a conclusion to this whole project about now, so I guess I will. Amnesia: The Dark Descent was and is a terrifying game to me. It scared me more than any other piece of content I have experienced in my life. For that, I have an unwavering appreciation of the game itself, and an appreciation for Frictional. I think it taps into the primal fear we have instilled into us as a species and takes us to a peak of terror and back, while contextualizing it all within a set of rules. They made history with this game, and it's something that everyone should try and play at some point in their life. SOMA is something completely different. SOMA to me is an incredible experience into thought, a horrifying journey into understanding, definition, and philosophy that makes you question every last assertion you've made in your life about subjects you didn't even realize you had made assertions about. It managed to have a design in every aspect that paid to maintain and punctuate their goal. The game is also terrifying, but for completely different reasons, and to be honest, it's ahead of its time, and has been received by a bunch of people who just don't know how to critique it. An audience who wanted more Five Nights at Freddy's. Frictional knew this, and they created it anyway. That combined with their general effort and passion towards their projects is why I thoroughly respect Frictional Games, and fully look forward to anything they make in the future. This game was incredible, and it was guaranteed to be misunderstood. By the way, there's plenty left in these games I haven't covered, loads of content I stripped from these videos for loads of different reasons. Knowing everything I've told you, I would still recommend going headfirst into playing both of these games if you haven't already, and playing them again knowing everything I've talked about. There's a lot of value to both of them before and after playing them to play them once again. Not to mention that I would love for this video to be seen by a lot of people, for sure. I'd like it if Joseph saw it too. I'd like it if any of the people I've gotten my inspiration from to see it, but really, I kind of just want Markiplier and Christopher Odd to see it, to know what they would think of how much I've essentially used their content to punctuate a lot of my points. I really enjoyed watching them both go through both of the games, and, you know, I always worry about whether or not I've misrepresented them, but anyway, people didn't get SOMA, and that sucks. But it's why there's such a value to critics, and as much as I have shat on a whole bunch of them throughout this series, I value them immensely since they can share their perspective and knowledge like I have with this series, and they can teach me about games and the design in those games that I had previously not known about. I just wish that everyone was a little bit more critical of the content they consume. There should not be a single YouTuber that you agree with 100%. At that point, the truth doesn't seem to really matter anymore. Once again, I'll have numerous mistakes and poorly worded moments throughout this whole video series, and I look forward to hearing everyone's thoughts as the series is released, because I am very fallible, as is everyone else who makes content like this. And that about does it for this video series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to give a shout out to Super Bunny Hop, Errant Signal, Zero Punctuation, Total Biscuit, YMS, Red Letter Media, Armored Skeptic, Ego Raptor, Colossal is Crazy, I Hate Everything, Passion of the Nerd, Jontron Show. These guys are a mix of my biggest inspiration, content creators I respect, and just generally some decent channels. They're kind of what still gives me hope for the critique community and just content creators in general. Now, this project took me over 3 months to complete, and that was in full time, by the way. I didn't have a job and I was done with uni. So the files I have locally for this totaled at 17,754 files and 179 gigabytes worth of files. I can't do this kind of thing again for a long time. I have no idea how much this may impress or annoy in general, but the sad fact is that my YouTube channel will be going a different direction from the moment this series is finished. That being stopping. I'm going to post stream highlights still, but I can't maintain this channel and my Twitch and a full-time job, so I guess I'm saying that this would hopefully just be the last hurrah and a happy goodbye from this kind of content. And for that reason, I can't really recommend subscribing, to be fair. I had super fun making it though, so it's cool, and if you thought that it was cool, then share it with people, sure. I kind of love streaming, and I want to find a way to balance that instead of taking 2 months to make a video that a large portion of my audience aren't even interested in, and it just simply won't get the kind of audience that it kind of needs for me to be able to consider spending that much time and effort in it. So it's just natural. I made this video because of my passion for Frictional Games, and I hope that you guys could see that. I really felt like I had something to say on this subject, so hopefully it was worth it. I want to say thanks to every person who's been lending a hand while I've been making this. Just like words of support, and especially Mr. Emi and Biometric for helping proof watch these videos from start to finish. I mean, part 1 is the 8th incarnation of that video. I had to make so many different edits, but bear in mind, guys, this is my second review, so I know it's full of problems, like the slow lack of effort towards the last few parts, the blatant attacks on certain other people probably won't do a lot for my reputation, but honesty is weird like that. Also, the tone of my series of videos has drastically changed from the first video to the last. Like, seriously, if you watch part 1 now, you'll see it changed quite a bit. But whatever, it's fine. The, you know, if you want to check out anything similar to this, I've got a dissection between the Dark Descent and Machine for Pigs. It's a 3-video set. I'll put a link to the first part on screen right now, so you can check that out if you'd like. But that set of videos is a hell of a lot worse in most ways than this series was. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. I wanna close by saying that SOMA came out at the wrong time and for the wrong audience. It was clunkily received by a fanbase that didn't understand it and didn't want it. Reviewers scratched their heads and placed the blame on a failure of design, and they were wrong. This sort of thing happens all the time, and without a good dissection we'll never know why. Horror is taking a new direction now. PT has ushered in a new trend that will be done to death until horror once again eats itself and prolapses another horrid corpse in terms of copycats and failures. I think Frictional are genuinely moving on from horror now, and people will say they lost their touch, or that they couldn't stick it in the new genre. I would prefer to think that they made their mark with 2 exceptional games, and it's time to find something else to do. So yeah, in closing, thank you for watching. Hopefully we all learned something throughout this, and both of these games were exceptional, and I'm genuinely appreciative that I got to play them. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you next time.